My sixth completed game for 2026 is Lies of P. I played this on PlayStation 5 Pro. I spent about 28 hours with the game through to completion. It is developed by NeoWiz and Round 8 Studios. What did I like about Lies of P? What worked? Now, I need to be careful with my words here. I know this game holds a special place in a lot of people's hearts, and a lot of people say that Lies of P is the best non-From Software Souls-like. I almost agree with that. I think for me personally, Lords of the Fallen takes that trophy. I played Lies of P originally when it released back on PC Game Pass. I probably wasn't as an experienced Souls-like gamer back then. I've definitely beaten a lot more Souls-like games since then. Thanks to Elden Ring, gave me the confidence to kind of beat some of the, all of the From Software games and a lot of other great Souls-like as well. But I wanted to go back and revisit Lies of P. I know it's such a fan favourite. A lot of people really love this game. And look, I've got to say, it is a really fantastic Souls-like. It is a highly polished game. I love the soundtrack. I love some of the concepts around the different builds and the weapons that you can equip. It's definitely very unique in that respect. I don't know, and I think this is a personal thing for me, I'm just not a massive fan of the puppet theme. It's done incredibly well in this game, and I really can't fault the aesthetic or any of the visual design. The whole kind of world is very interesting. I just feel like puppets, they're just not really for me. I feel like I want something a little more either high fantasy or a little darker in nature for my Souls-like. Some of the puppets, you know, the bouncing clowns and the different types of Pinocchio kind of concepts. Look, they're cool, they're great, but it's just definitely not what I would consider kind of my ideal setting for a game. Now, putting all that aside, it is an amazing Souls-like. The bosses, obviously the standout. There are some amazing bosses in this game with the multiple phases, some incredibly challenging fights. I did originally rage quit this on release on the Swamp boss, but I was lucky to kind of stay it out this time and get the game done. The last few bosses are really exceptional, especially the Nameless Puppet at the end. That was a very cool fight and an amazing boss design. I actually used the starting weapon throughout the whole game, which was maybe a little bit of a... I would have loved a bit more build variety, but again, I was probably just playing what worked and what got me through. I didn't spend a huge amount of time kind of going beyond this or doing multiple playthroughs. I really just wanted to experience it to the end, and ultimately, I really see this game as one of those hallmark Souls-likes that's really kind of held up the genre outside of the typical FromSoft games. Definitely challenging. Definitely lived up to it. I was surprised to see there's difficulty settings now. I didn't change them. I played it on the default setting, which I think is the hardest. I did use some summons here and there, so I was playing the game pretty much as intended. I'm glad I saw it out to the end. So what didn't work with Lies of P? Look, I think for me, definitely the puppet aesthetic, it doesn't knock me for 6. It's not something that I'm blown away by from an aesthetic perspective. I also feel like the bosses hold this game up. The level design and kind of what you're doing between the levels and the enemy variety is, it's probably a little bland for my liking. I found it a bit repetitive. I was definitely kind of ready for those last couple of levels to be over. I felt them kind of, there's a lot of just things put in place just to be difficult for difficulty's sake rather than, interesting environments. That's just me though. I do think ultimately I think the game is very solid and highly polished. I had no technical issues with it, and I'm glad I saw it out to the end. So was it worth it? I'm glad I went back and revisited Lies of P. I liked this game. I don't think I loved it, but I definitely liked it, and I'm glad that I finished it. So that is my 6th completed game for 2026, Lies of P.